this is Christina Caudill with Radiant Astrology, and this is your new moon in Pisces Starcast. And I'll also be covering the Mercury Retrograde, also in Pisces, coming up starting the beginning of March. So let's dive in to the Pisces new moon first. But first, I want to invite you to like my channel. I'm an evolutionary astrologer and I do videos on the new moons and full moons. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and have your notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on any new content. All right, so for the Pisces new moon, the new moon will be exact Wednesday, March 6th at 8:03 a.m. Pacific time and 11:03 a.m. Eastern time. And it will be at 15 degrees of Pisces. So that means for that new moon, from the moment it's exact, and for about the first 12 hours, they say that is really the best time to set your intentions for them to develop over the coming 6 months. But even if you don't get it in that window, really from the moment of the new moon's exactness to about 2.5 days after, that's really that new moon time. It's that time to really go inward, to take stock of where it is you want to align for your life and your intentions to begin to grow and develop, especially around Pisces themes, which we'll be talking about. And so this new moon is actually very mystical and magical because not only is it in the sign of Pisces, which in itself is the realm of dreams and fantasy and inspiration, divine love and creativity, but it's also conjunct Neptune, which is the modern ruler of Pisces. And we've also got a tight conjunction with Vesta, the sacred flame of devotion. And I'll be talking a little bit about what that all might mean. So there's a lot of potential in how this could potentially manifest. First, I like to think about Pisces and Neptune as the great ocean of the collective unconscious. And oftentimes with transits of Neptune, we see and experience how we are all interconnected. Neptune dissolves what it touches. It dissolves boundaries. And boundaries that keep us in our nice, neat little roles and our egos. And it brings us in touch with our humanity and even the soul of the world, or our collective soul. So sometimes this can be through events that really touch us deeply. I mean, I imagine that we will have some sudden need to just maybe cry for no reason, or the tears coming out that can be very cathartic. And it can be events and experiences that are very moving, very beautiful, or very painful. So whether it's inspiring events that uplift us and really tug at our heartstrings, or even tragic events that have us pouring out emotions and that help to really dissolve those boundaries between people, such as experiences of collective sadness and grief. Essentially, what Pisces and Neptune can do is put us in touch with the very highest expression of compassion. And because compassion means to suffer with, we cannot have compassion without suffering, right? So there can be both suffering and many times suffering can bring about such intense experiences of compassion, inspiration, and connection with the divine, with spirituality. Now, dreams during this time will be extra vivid and rich. Anytime I see major influences of Neptune, dreams are usually really prominent. And a lot of people think that they can't remember their dreams. I mean, I also struggle with remembering my dreams on a daily basis. But once you put that intention out and really just start with having a journal and a pen right next to your bed and just writing what you can remember when you wake up, that can really help you to have easier access to your dreams. Or telling, if you're married or living with someone, telling the first person as you wake up what your dreams were about. And I highly suggest doing this before hopping on social media. Most of us wake up and get right on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and then our dreams are gone, right? And then suddenly, the mind is filled with the now, and that dream realm can sometimes just drift off. And if we lose it, perhaps we lose that dream forever. So once we can get into the habit of writing our dreams, we can have easier access to their memory when we are conscious, when we're awake. Now, during this new moon in Pisces time, where the sun and the moon will be joined with Neptune, likely those dreams are going to linger. They're going to stay with us. The memory of them will stay with us. And sometimes also when we have these influences of Neptune, it can feel like, dream time is the reality time, and our waking time can feel more like a dream. It can be hard to distinguish whether we're awake or whether we're asleep. I have a really dear friend, Leah Whitehorse, who is the astrologer at Lua Astrology, and she really believes in lucid dreaming. And says this has really helped her with creativity. And that can take some work, some discipline, but eventually you can be able to be somewhat conscious within the dream realm. But I feel like around this time of this new moon in Pisces, we're going to feel like we're in a waking dream. And also the symbols and the significance of dreams will likely be really prominent. So it can be really helpful to start exploring dream work. Robert Moss, Martha Beck, and Choco Pa Turner are some dream work practitioners that are doing some really interesting work. You can find them online. It can be really fun to look at some of those dream dictionaries and get some of the interpretations of our dreams. But really, you are your own best dream interpreter, because these images are coming from your own unconscious. And our inner images are really our soul speaking to us. And so according to Martha Beck, every character in your dream is a facet of your own ego. And so if you dream about someone else, it's not necessarily about that person, but about what you project from your own inner images about who this person is, what they symbolize for you, and actually what you can actually own about their characteristics for yourself. So definitely explore some dream work during this time. Now, active imagination is also something that can be very helpful for not only just tapping into your own inner wisdom, but also getting some insights potentially into your future. And so what active imagination is from my understanding, is it isn't the same as just fantasizing or wishing for something or imagining what you want. It's actually envisioning the images that arise from your unconscious and allowing them to unfold on their own. For instance, if you have a dream that felt significant or even disturbing in some way, and you want to understand it more, in active imagination, you would go back into the space of the dream in your mind's eye and allow it to unfold on its own. So allow the characters, allow the experience to just take off and just follow along with it. And this is while you're still conscious and awake. So it can take some patience. It can be great to be guided around it, but often you can just be patient and wait to see what the images do and what kind of messages they have for you, and just allow it to be revealed to you. All right, so the other influence I want to speak about for this new moon in Pisces is Vesta, which is the sacred flame. And she also represents devotion, as well as our inner fire of creativity and sexuality. And so she is tightly conjunct Neptune and the new moon. And so this is suggesting a new beginning where we can direct our creative energy or our sexual energy toward something higher than just sort of like the lower root or sacral chakra realm. It's actually bringing that creative fire and that sexual fire up into the higher realms, like transmuting this energy into spiritual energy. or devoting one's full psychic energy fully and completely to a spiritual practice or to something Piscean, a creative practice that is uplifting, that is in the fantasy realm, that actually lifts us out of the everyday and brings more of a sense of sacred into our everyday lives. Now, I did a podcast recently on Vesta with my friend, the astrologer Michelle Gregg, which I will link to below, and you definitely want to check that out for more of the mythology of Vesta. So this new moon is also a great time to be detoxing as well. And so as we often see with Neptune and the opposite, or Pisces rather, and the opposite sign of Virgo, there can be this intoxication and detoxification, right? We tend to think of Neptune and Pisces as intoxication, like with drugs or alcohol or escapism, or excessive consuming or something like that. But as I spoke about the recent Virgo full moon, we may now be having some experiences of a need to detox. Maybe we've consumed too much and now we're feeling a need to purge. We can be very sensitive at this time to any kind of mind-altering substances, so we want to be very careful with those. And with Pisces, just in general, we can tend to just want to check out, right? Check out of life, just be isolated, or we may just lose track of time. But having private time with ourselves is actually really important right now. And so just be gentle with yourself and honor your need to have some isolation or some alone time. Now, because we live in such a demanding and fast-paced world, we can tend to feel guilty about taking time for ourselves and for caring for ourselves. And that can really work against us. It can work against the healing process. We're constantly, feeling guilty for not connecting or not moving fast enough or not being on top of everything. I mean, I think this can be a time that can remind us that we are more than just our roles, right? We are more than just our identity we've created in the world. So know that during this time, we may need a little bit more isolation. We need to be gentle with ourselves, and also extending that patience not only to ourselves, but with others, because everyone will be feeling this new moon in one way or another. So if others aren't responding to us in our time, recognize they may be needing some isolation too, even if they don't realize it. So we want to find compassion for ourselves and for others and their healing process as well. So now Jupiter is also important, as it is the co-ruler of Pisces. And he's in his rulership in Sagittarius, conjunct Ceres, the goddess of fertility. And they are in a wide square to the new moon. And so Sagittarius is about potential and possibility and new horizons. So because they are in a square, this can cause some challenges. It can also be very creative. The enthusiasm of fire can be put out with all this water in watery Pisces, right? So the fire of Sagittarius may not be much of a match for the water in Pisces, but this suggests that, maybe we at times might need to find a way to ignite ourselves, even if, we're feeling that sense of, needing to retreat and quiet. Maybe we might be putting off some opportunities if we can't sort of find a way to blend the fire and the water. Now, so much, we've been having this Jupiter-Neptune square for some time now, sort of within orb, and that can tend to have us going off the rails, going overboard, because Sagittarius loves expansion and exaggeration even. And of course, Neptune and Pisces tends to be more boundaryless, right? So it can be a little difficult to find one's balance with these very sort of expansive and dispersive energies. Now, the beauty of this new moon is it is sextile Saturn in Capricorn. So Saturn can help to kind of realign, to put some of the brakes on, or to create just enough structure and practicality so we don't go off the rails entirely. So when we're setting our new moon intentions, we want to have them just grounded enough into reality so that they aren't completely unrealistic, and so that they don't dissolve like a sugar cube in water. We want to use some of that Saturn practicality to our advantage. And remember, Saturn wants discipline and patience and appropriate boundaries. Saturn also wants us to be mature and take responsibility for ourselves and our lives. So it's kind of like, if we have these really big dreams, take also some responsibility for them. Like, we're meant to co-create with the universe, but co-creating means we also have to participate. We also have to contribute. So no matter how inspired or unrealistic your intentions may be, and they can be and should be very big for this new moon, just remember to bring in just enough Saturn to have some practicality and some sustainability over the long term. And so now Mercury retrograde. Now Mercury retrograde, this period is going to be very interesting because it is in the sign of Pisces, and it is going to be stationing retrograde March 5th, so just before the new moon, at 29 degrees of Pisces. So we'll get to the very end, the last degree of the last sign of the zodiac in Pisces, and we'll station we'll station direct, and we'll turn direct on the 28th of March at 16 degrees Pisces. And so this is significant because what have we had just hovering around 29 degrees of Pisces for the past several months? Chiron, the wounded healer. So my sense is a lot of those lessons around our soul wounds, or even our collective wounding, will likely come up in our contemplations, maybe our meditations, through the mental realm, right? That is Mercury's realm. And so 29 Pisces is actually where Chiron had been pretty much near that degree. It first transited there in 2017. So 2017 on and off until just recently, here in February 2019, Chiron has been hovering around that degree of late Pisces, early Aries. And so whatever came up around that time, around some of our, our soul wounds, the wounds of the collective, right? Pisces is the all. It is all the universe. It is all the karma. And it can be our, deep soul wounds that really feel eternal. And so whatever we've been having to process, especially these past few months since about December, when Chiron was really just sort of sitting there at that last degree of Pisces, even though Chiron has recently crossed the threshold into Aries and is ready for a new phase and is ready for a new era in being the maverick in our lives, in a way where we can bring some instinct and some fire to our path in life. This Mercury retrograde, to me, is saying there may be some things still needing to process, even if we feel like, we have to move forward. We're in a new phase. We're no longer stuck in certain relationships or situations that made us feel really just wounded and bogged down. Even if we are taking on our lives in a new way and our independence in a new way, sometimes experiences still need to be processed mentally. And so there can be a sense of really just processing who we are, our new sense of identity, our new sense of independence. And so this is really going to have to open up the realm of the logical mind, into the realm of intuition and inspiration and compassion and healing. Now, Mercury, because it is symbolic of the left brain, the logical mind, discernment, it's concerned with focus, right? And understanding the world by categorizing things, by being focused and discerning. Now, it's difficult. It has a difficult time in Pisces because in Pisces, Mercury is in its detriment, because Pisces is anything but logical and focused. And as I said, Pisces is akin to the ocean, right? There's no categorizing in the ocean. There's no walls in the ocean. The ocean is in constant motion, in constant flow. But it somehow manages to align with some universal force of order. We could even say divine order or cosmic order, right? So Mercury being the realm of the logical, being in the Pisces, which, can be illogical, but also can be very inspired. It's getting these flows of insight that maybe don't make sense rationally or logically, but there is a deep truth to them. So people that are born with Mercury in Pisces, there's no dig on you or your intelligence or intellect or anything like that. Mercury in Pisces just might think differently, think in a way that is indistinguishable from intuition and insight. So especially as Mercury is retrograde in Pisces, it can be frustrating when we're trying to force our mental focus and we can't stay focused. Or when we forget things a lot, things can go missing, especially things that we need, like our car keys, or we might drop our phone into the toilet or something, right? Because think about this water sign, and how can water throw a wrench into our communication and our ability to just live our life by, our typical patterns. In Pisces, things just disappear. Or we could just forget information or details. But what I've appreciated about what Aaron Sullivan has said about Mercury retrograde in general is that our minds go from a space of attention to a space of awareness, right? So an awareness of the greater experience of life, that is what's possible during a Mercury retrograde because we're thinking different. So it's about being more broadly aware and attuned to the energy around us. We can be extra sensitive at this time and maybe even extra psychic as well. Now, this can be a great time to connect with the past during Mercury retrograde. It often opens doors to communicating with people from our past. And in Pisces, it could be people from the deep past, maybe past lives. Maybe it can feel like past life friends come through to help you. Mercury can symbolize friends. So anytime Mercury retrograde comes along, it can open a portal for the connection, even maybe a psychic connection with friends from the past. And we may finally hear each other and see each other. When normally, when Mercury is going direct, this person is part of our past, no longer part of our daily life. Now, in general, misunderstandings can come up during Mercury retrograde. And in Pisces, that can be extra frustrating because your words and your intentions might not match up, or people might not get what you're intending through your words. And the more you try to clarify, it can be like sinking into quicksand. It can make things even worse sometimes. So if misunderstandings come up during Mercury retrograde in Pisces, see if it's possible to take some time to reflect and maybe just to wait out the Mercury retrograde. Now, the beauty of Mercury retrograde is sometimes misunderstandings that were from way back, the deep past, or maybe even years ago, they can come through a Mercury retrograde, and often we can find resolution finally, and maybe put something to rest finally, because Mercury is about communication. Now, this could also be a very difficult time to discern truth from lies, right? Because Pisces can have us confused. We may be more influenced by others who might not have our best intentions at heart. Or we could just be in denial about the truth, or even others might not even know they're lying to us. They could be in denial too, right? So Mercury is both the messenger of the gods, but also the trickster. And in Pisces, these can be blended together or they can be confused, right? So it can really be a time of confusion. So if we feel pressured to make certain decisions urgently during this Mercury retrograde in Pisces, that almost always happens during Mercury retrograde, we suddenly feel like we have to make a decision now. Now, it's important to ask yourself, is the rush really that vital? Is this something that has to be rushed now? And sometimes it does. Sometimes it can't wait. But there can be gifts coming through Mercury retrograde. Now, a lot of times after Mercury goes direct, we might either have a change of heart or have a change of plans, may think a little differently than when things were during Mercury retrograde. But there can also be, some really magical opportunities that come through. So it's really important to check in with your intuition. But, because of this Jupiter-Neptune square, this could really be a time for you to take a leap of faith, because faith is a big theme of a new moon, especially new moon in Pisces. And again, if you have a hard time tapping into your logical mind or even your intuition, divination can be very helpful during this time. Maybe oracle cards or the I Ching or casting a horary chart can help you come up with the right answer for your query. So some of the gifts of Mercury retrograde in Pisces are heightened intuition, creativity, and also healing at the level of soul. We can be a lot more attuned to fantasy, imagination, and poetry. And as I said before, we can lose track of time. We can get lost in our thoughts. But Mercury retrogrades almost always illuminate something about our mind and our imagination and the potential for our creativity. So I like to think of Mercury retrograde in Pisces as living your poetry or living your meditation. Words may not even suffice to express what's in your soul, right? The soul's language is myth and metaphor and poetry and music. And also thinking about healing at the energy level, right? At the sound level. Sound is an ancient way of healing one's physical body and energetic body. Also meditative healing such as yoga nidra could be especially helpful at this time, or sound baths, or even just taking a long bath with Epsom salts. One of my favorite things to do during Pisces time. And so the other thing about March 6th, I just wanted to mention, it's also the same day that Uranus enters Taurus. And we can look back at last May, June, July. For a few months there last year, we had Uranus dipping into Taurus. And Taurus is fixed earth. And so Uranus is the breakthrough symbol, right? So Taurus is where we tend to seek stability, where we can cling to a sense of survival, or where we can procrastinate even. And so Uranus entering here is really a call for evolution, for change and innovation. So seeing where this is happening in your chart is a really good indication that change is coming and change is needed. Uranus is also about rebellion. So maybe how we rebel or how we resist may need to change. We may need to move more to a sense of Taurian tenacity rather than Arian fire. This may be the time to find a sense of tenacity and have that working for us. So what is your intention around the new moon in Pisces? Think about Piscean themes: creativity, spirituality, compassion, forgiveness, and even divine love. And so whatever you intend to manifest, remember that you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. So be really sure to feel into your intentions so that you're creating an energetic match for them. Because anything in the outer world begins with an inner shift and an inner commitment. And as the new moon is symbolic of a moment of marriage of the sun and the moon, this is a moment of inner commitment for yourself, of the ego, the sun, and the intuition, the moon. Now, new moons require faith, especially this one in Pisces. It has much to do with faith, right? So if maybe we felt like we've lost our faith in something or someone, but with Vesta here at this new moon, that suggests that it's time to place our faith and devotion into ourselves, because Vesta is she who is whole unto herself. And in Pisces, that's really about a devotion to spirit, right? So make sure you check your chart to see where 15 degrees Pisces is. What house it falls in can indicate the area of life that's most affected. If you have planets around 15 degrees of immutable signs, that's Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, and Sagittarius. Those will most likely be affected by this new moon as well, for a new beginning over the next 6 months to develop your spiritual gifts, your spirituality in this area of your chart. Now, I love the Sabian symbol for this new moon. It's at the 16th degree of Pisces, because remember, you always round up 1 degree. And the Sabian symbol is, in the quiet of his study, a creative individual experiences a flow of inspiration. Now, isn't that beautiful? Now, what does that make you think of? The first thing that stands out to me is the word quiet, right? How often do we have true moments of quiet these days? We are so connected and so addicted to being entertained and consuming entertainment, or even addicted to being productive at every moment of the day. You know, we can check our phone, we can connect with our friends, we can do our work from anywhere at any time. But actually, to truly be creative, we need quiet, we need focus, and we need to align with the flow of inspiration. And so really, these moments of alone time are sacred moments, right? And we can only be truly creative when we tell the truth of our inner images, when we let our inner images express their own story, right? When we can bear witness to the truth of our soul. And to be in the flow of inspiration is to be aligned with spirit and with our creative expression, right? So this suggests to me tapping into yourself as the source of your inspiration. It's very much echoed by this Vesta conjunct the new moon as well. So that's it for this Starcast. I hope you have a magical new moon in Pisces. For a deeper dive into the astrology, check out my Radiant Astrology podcast on iTunes, and be sure to subscribe to my free newsletter at radiantastrology.com. I'll have the link in the comments. Couple of things. I'm offering a special until the March 6th new moon. You can receive a complimentary energy clearing with the purchase of an astrology reading. So check out the details in the comments below. And the Pro Psychic Mechanics course for spiritual entrepreneurs to grow their business is now open for enrollment. So get the information and the link and all the details in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.